Hello, friends. Stafford Podcast. I love y'all. Hope y'all know that. This is going to be episode 2, ostensibly. So, the first episode was Wright Thompson with ESPN, and I've got a lot of great guests lined up. Steve Azar, I don't have to be Meet a Monday guy, He's going to be on the program pretty soon. Jeremy London from Party of Five and Mallrats and Gods and Generals, and most of you are probably going to know him from Mallrats. If you're my age, more than likely Mallrats or Party of Five. He was Nev Campbell's boyfriend in that TV show. But I wanted to do something a little bit different today, and I thought a lot about, sharing my life story and, how would I do that? And so it's kind of like I always wanted to write a book about what I've kind of been through, which one of the things I've learned is everybody goes through some shit. You know what I mean? Like, everybody goes through things. And some of us deal with them better than others. And after my dad died, and I really got to say this, it goes back to 2006 for me. When my dad died, everything for me changed. And it changed in a way that I understood, and it changed for me in a lot of ways that I didn't. And I think that it's amazing to me how many people go back to my dad died or my mom died and now everything is different. Because if we do things correctly, that's how it should work, right? We should bury our parents. Our parents should not bury us. I have 2 daughters now. And that's helped put it in perspective for me that I want them to bury me. I don't want to bury them. And so why is it that we deal so poorly sometimes with the death of somebody close to us, with the death of a parent, especially for those of us like me that believe in God? Why are we, I should ostensibly believe that my dad is in a much better place than here. So shouldn't I be happy for him rather than sad, right? And after 2006, not only did I not really understand what was happening, even though I was 32 years old at the time, but I dealt with it really poorly. And I put myself in positions where I would fail on purpose almost. It was like subconsciously something was happening to me that I couldn't explain. And there was a point maybe about 5 or 6 years ago where I guess it's really been about 6 years ago now, where I kind of looked at it and went, okay, something's going on here, and my subconscious mind is screwing with me. And I came to this realization that there was a subconscious mind making decisions for me when I wasn't thinking about it. And I went on this mission to understand. Now, by the way, I got to be totally honest with you. How I came to that conclusion was I bankrupted myself. When my dad died, I was worth around $850,000. So I was really getting close to a millionaire at 32 years old. At 26, by the way, I had a net worth of less than zero. Okay, so in about 6 years, I had gone from a net worth of less than zero to almost $850,000 net worth in 6 years. And really just felt like I couldn't do anything wrong. And then I wake up, it's like almost like I went to sleep after my dad died, and I woke up and I was bankrupt. But that wasn't what happened. It was much different than that. And rather than take you through this whole story of how we got there, what I want to try to do is break up into some segments how I learned to deal with that. And how I, after the aftermath of that, I could go through how, I'll tell you a real quick story, and then we can get into this whole idea of toxic positivity versus positivity, because that's really what I want to talk about today. But there's, for me, a ground zero for the realization that my life was fucked up. And I'm sorry to use that word, but I don't know any other way to put it. And that was an article that the Journey magazine, I think Sunflower County Journey magazine or something like that did. And I think, I'm looking around, there may actually be a copy of it hanging on my wall somewhere in here. And the title of the article was, "What Can't Stafford Sheridan Do?" In other words, Stafford Sheridan can do anything. At the time, I was Justice Court Judge of Sunflower County. I was the city judge for the city of Louisville. I owned 1933 Restaurant and Bar. I owned Stafford's Market in Deli and Drew. And I owned a pretty large farm in Sunflower County. Now, I was doing all these things. And we had just opened 1933. So we're looking at 2014, probably, somewhere around there. And I remember that article coming out, and I was pretty excited about it, actually, because, we had this brand new restaurant opening in Louisville, and, it was going to be great publicity for that. And then I saw the title, and my heart sank. Because I felt like at first I was like, oh, they give me too much credit. But the reality was I felt like a fraud. I looked at it, because I knew how vulnerable I was financially, right? Because we're talking about mainly financially here. And I looked at what I was doing, and I'm like, I'm a fraud. What can't Stafford Sheridan do? Well, there's a lot of shit Stafford Sheridan can't do. And one of them was run a business for profit, apparently. I was having such an issue making a profit and running a business, and we can diagnose this later on down the road, but for the most part, what was happening was I was purposefully self-destructing. I was purposefully doubting myself. I didn't think I deserved those accolades. I didn't think I deserved to have some of the things that I never felt like I deserved to be judge. Even though I was very proud of the job I did. I was very proud of how I got elected. I found running for office really, really easy. But there was that little voice inside deep down that said, you don't deserve this. This wasn't yours, never was meant to be yours. It was your dad's. He died. That's how you got it. You'll always be the guy that inherited that job. It's one of the reasons I didn't want to run. I said, you know what? I don't love the job, so let's just not run for it again. So 2004, about that time period, I started doing some real soul searching. And I want to say something about positivity versus toxic positivity. There's no such thing as toxic positivity. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. And I want to make a really important point here. I had some discussions with people that I really care about, that I really love, about what in the hell is toxic masculinity? And I'm using both of these terms kind of to explain why I don't like this putting toxic in front of something that's supposed to be a good thing. Because ostensibly, is the feminine good or is the feminine bad? We would say it's good. Is the masculine good or bad? It should be considered good. I don't think in today's society being masculine is considered a good thing on the whole. And that's why we've done these things like added the word toxicity to it. Or toxic. So I asked somebody, what is toxic masculinity? And after the discussion went on for a while, it kind of came down to this. When a man does something bad, that's toxic masculinity. Just because of his gender. And mostly we're talking about when a man specifically does something bad to a female. Mostly. And, the Me Too movement was big when that term got started. And what happens at the hands of men to women is abhorrent. And as a judge, I saw it firsthand. Mississippi used to be number one in the nation at women who died at the hands of their significant other. You think about that for a minute. That's a terrible number one to be. So, definitely, that's a bad thing. But there's nothing masculine about that. In fact, I would say it's the opposite of masculine. When I think about what masculinity really does mean, the most unmasculine, unmanly thing that you could do is hurt a woman. It's a terrible, terrible thing to do. And when I see a man that does that, typically what I see are and this kind of bared out in court for me when I had cases of domestic violence, men who abused women, either physically or mentally, were weak. And they were trying to make themselves appear stronger by keeping someone down. So they were mentally weak, sometimes physically weak, but usually it's a mental weakness. That's the opposite of masculinity to me. By that same token, when you start talking about toxic positivity, what I think people are talking about is somebody who's always happy for happy's sake, or I'm going to be positive for positive sake. That's not real positivity. It's fake. It's not real positivity. So putting the word toxic in front of positivity is there to demean that. What positivity is positivity is attitude. And it's about the kind of attitude that allows you to get up every day and take action. Positivity is really just attitude that leads to action. I'm going to say it one more time. Positivity is attitude that leads to action. That's all positivity is. And if it doesn't lead to action, it's not positivity, it's stupid. Let me give you a great example that, after 2014, I realized how bad everything was going, and I'm like, I have to make some really serious changes in my life. And I was thinking about, for whatever reason, and I got to throw this out there, Hunter Morrison was at work one night in 1933, and he said, have you read the book by Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within? And I was like, actually, I hadn't read that, but I'm really familiar with Tony Robbins. So I got the book and read it, and it was just one of those things that, if you're focused on something, you're going to see a lot of it. Real quick story. Back in the 90s, I decided I was going to be in the pay telephone business. And I never noticed a pay telephone until I was in the pay telephone business. And I noticed every freaking pay telephone on every corner. I was like, oh, there's a pay telephone. There's a pay telephone. That one doesn't belong to AT&T. That belongs to Southern Telecom. Actually, that was our business with Southern Telecom or some other business. And you start paying attention because you're aware of it. It's kind of like when you get that brand new purse that you think nobody else has, and then the next week you see it everywhere. Well, it was everywhere last week. You just didn't see it because you didn't have one. Guys do it with pickup trucks, man. We go get a brand new pickup truck, and it's like, holy shit, this pickup truck is everywhere. We thought we had the only pickup truck that color. I bought this brand new Chevrolet with this charcoal, and now we go everywhere, and everywhere we go, we see the same damn truck. It's the same thing. It's because where focus goes, we're paying attention to it. And now I'm focused on Tony Robbins. And everywhere I look, I see Tony Robbins. And I'm like, is this, what's happening? Is the world trying to tell me something? And I think a lot of times the world is trying to tell us something. And you can I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. But you can believe in God. You can believe in the universe. You can believe in whatever. But you got to believe. I think you're missing out if you don't understand that there's a higher power out there. And while I don't believe in predestination, I do believe that the universe opens up for us if we're paying attention. And so often we're not paying attention. We're going to talk about how our subconscious mind messes with us in a little while. But right now, all of a sudden now, I'm paying attention to the way I think and feel and all that. And I'm laying in bed one night and I look at my wife and I said, this is going to sound crazy, but I think God wants me to go see Tony Robbins. Which, I always kind of looked at Tony Robbins as a joke. I mean, this guy, these big teeth and, all this stuff going on. And it's like, this guy can't be real. So I go to the Tony Robbins event, and the one thing I remember that stuck out for me, because I'm a farmer, he had this thing where he said, positivity is not going to your garden that's full of weeds and looking at the weeds and going, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no weeds. Positivity is looking at your garden and going, I have the strength and the attitude to do something about the weeds. And as a farmer, that really resonated with me, because I couldn't go out there and go, well, if I just write it down on a chalkboard somewhere, kind of like, it's like that book, The Secret, which I got to totally admit I haven't read, and some of you can maybe straighten me out on this, but the general idea I get from people that have read it is you just write it down and it comes true. I'm all about goal setting, and that's all cool and everything, but it can't work. It can't be that fucking simple. I'm sorry. You got to actually do something. Every time you set a goal, you write it down in your own handwriting, and then you actually do something about it as soon as you set the goal. It makes it real. It's not real until you've taken action. There's nothing that can replace action, and without action, there's no such thing as positivity. Positive thinking is not going to work without action. That's how you get real positivity. And that's the thing I really took away from being around Tony Robbins a little bit. Positivity is only good through action. It's kind of like working out your brain and working out your body is the same thing. It's the absolute same thing. If I can do a podcast about push-ups, I can talk about push-ups, me and you can think about push-ups, you can write down how many push-ups you think you need to do, but until you do the damn push-ups, you ain't going to do anything. Until you do the sit-ups, your stomach's not going to get any flatter. You actually have to take action, and that's what we're trying to do. Positivity conveys action. Because positivity is not just a state of mind, It's a state of outcome. I'm positive that I'm going to get up today and I'm going to do 25 push-ups. I'm positive that I'm going to go out this morning and I'm going to solve my problems. And I'm going to work on them. And given, you're not going to solve them today. But if I know what they are, if I've identified them and I can work on them, that's something totally different. This whole toxic positivity, we should do away with that term. Because if all you're going to do is stand around your garden and chant, you're not positive, you're stupid. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And that's the truth. I just read the Matthew McConaughey book, and he always goes, green light. And I kind of feel like doing that. It's like, oh my God, the light bulb should literally be going off above your head right now. I want you to do something with me, and I want to kind of make a point about positive thinking. Scientists have come to this conclusion a lot. Well, let me rephrase that. A lot of scientists have come to this conclusion. I could get into this whole thing about science, but a lot of scientists believe that we have memories in our DNA that are passed on from generation to generation, and it accounts for a lot of the decisions that we make today. Anxiety is a real thing for everybody, and anxiety really just means fear. What are we afraid of? And we make decisions based on fear, and we fear a lot of times. Maybe, we don't know for sure, but maybe because there's something in our DNA that's telling us to fear this thing because it's happened to our ancestors. So how are we making these decisions to be fearful? And why can we not consciously deal with some of these things rather than letting our subconscious do it? I want you to do a little exercise with me just a second. And it's not going to take long, just a few seconds. And I mean, like, really go through this with me because you're going to love this point, I think. Hold your breath for 5 seconds. And I'm going to count to 5. I'm going to do the whole one Mississippi thing. And we're going to start. And just bear with me. Hold your breath for just a second. Starting now. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. Okay, you can start breathing again. Let me ask you a question. Did you actually do it? Can you hold your breath? You can. Are you breathing right now? Are you thinking about it? Did you go, okay, I got to take this breath now? Are you thinking about breathing right now? Are you thinking about your heart beating? The point I'm making is your subconscious mind is making lots of decisions for you. Your subconscious mind is handling a lot. We know, you think about all the senses that we have. We are taking in so much information all day long, every day, from the way the wind blows against our skin, to the sounds that we hear, to the things we see, to the smells that we encounter. And our mind is taking all that in and deciding what are we going to do with all this data. It's going to freak out our conscious mind if we put all that data on our conscious mind. So all that shit that's happening is going into your brain, but your subconscious is dealing with most of it. We hear this old adage that we only use 20% of our brains. That is one of the most misused quotes that's ever been made. We use all of our brains. It's just that consciously we're only using 20%. That 80% is our heart beating and our breathing and all of those sensory things that are going on that's going into our brain, but our brain's deciding subconsciously what to do with those things. When a guy cuts us off in traffic, we go, asshole. We don't even think about it. Maybe that guy's late because his wife's in labor. He's trying to get to the hospital on time. We don't even think about it. We make an immediate decision, and we make an assumption about somebody. We make this decision without even thinking about what it could have been. The point I'm making is, if you can hold your breath, you can interrupt your subconscious patterns. That's all I'm saying. And what I've been trying to figure out, and I don't know that I know this or understand this, is can I start making some of those decisions that the subconscious mind's making? Probably for a good reason, but maybe not for such a good reason. Just like that guy that cut us off in traffic. Why do I need to go immediately to the negative? But our brains automatically take us there. So many times we're automatically taken to the negative. I'm going to tell a little story on my wife. She went yesterday, and I got to tell this. So you already know from what I've been telling you, I went bankrupt in 2014, and just coming out of the other side of that and just kind of getting to where I have a little money in my pocket. And my wife says, we're going to add on to the house, right? And I'm like, she along with me has had to do without a lot of things. I mean, we've had to do without stuff. And so she's really excited about this idea that we could make an addition to the house. And she went yesterday. She called me. She said, I need your truck because I'm driving to Jackson to buy these doors I bought for the addition to the house, which we have only tentatively even talked about. But she's already buying stuff for this edition. And it gave me anxiety. I got to be honest. I mean, I started being anxious about it. I'm like, now I've got to try to figure out how we're going to pay for an addition to the house. And, there's really a couple of other things that financially I'd like to handle before we make an addition. And, I started feeling all this pressure. And so, consequently, I was not very nice to her about it. I got to admit. And she got back yesterday, and I helped her unload them into the shop, and these doors are like, dude, they're so big, they're so huge, and I'm freaking out. This is yesterday, and I'm kind of freaking out, and she knows I'm freaking out, and then it upsets her, and now she's all upset, and she's like, I've made this great purchase of these doors for $250 that if we bought them would have been $2,000, and for no good reason I upset my wife. That's the kind of stuff that anxiety does to us. And that's the kind of stuff that's really a subconscious thing, and we start subconsciously putting these values. We're not thinking about it. We're just automatically jumping to these conclusions. We're automatically putting ourselves in fear. These are survival mechanisms. One of the reasons that the human species has been so successful is because of anxiety. We call it anxiety, but what it really is fear. It's fight or flight. It's we're trying to anticipate the next bad thing that can happen to us. And that's how we survived, and that's how we became social, and that's how we're the only animal on Earth, we're the only creature on Earth that can get together literally in the billions across the globe and do things as a unit. We can do that. No other animal can do that. And that's a God-given thing. God gave us this anxiety to protect us, but we've used it improperly, unfortunately. So the question is, can you override that? And I would tell you that a lot of people are listening to my voice right now are going, hey, no, you can't override that. Some people, I just wish I could be just as strong as Stafford Sheridan could be and do that. I'm not sitting here telling you I'm strong. And I am saying that there are people listening to my voice right now that, guys, I know that some of you need more help than listening to a podcast by some guy that his dad died and he went bankrupt. I mean, that's basically, how I got here talking to you right now. Some of you have greater issues than that, and I don't want to diminish those in the least. In fact, what I'm really talking to are people that are already playing life at a higher level, who are already, and I hate to call it a game because I don't want to diminish what life is, but already playing the game at a higher level and are trying to get further than that. That's who I'm really talking to. And it just goes back to the same thing we said earlier. All the point I want to make during this whole conversation today is that positivity is really simple. Just like working out is really simple. Now, we both know neither one of those things is actually simple. They're simple to talk about. They're simple to think about. They're not so simple to do. I'm living proof of that. If you've watched me in my gas station reviews, you've noticed that over the last couple of years, I put around 25 pounds around my midsection. These things are not easy. And it's not the 64, 65 episodes I've done of the gas station reviews. It's not those meals that did it. It's the ones between those that did it. That's how I got the 25 or 30 extra pounds. And I found it really, really difficult to get this weight back off. I'm hungry right now. 9:30 in the a.m., hadn't eaten breakfast, trying to do my intermittent fasting until lunch. And I'm hungry right the freaking hell now. Yet I'm going to try and make it at least till 12 or 1 o'clock before I eat. The point I'm trying to make with you guys is your mind works the same way as your body. You exercise it. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and be good at being positive. You're not going to be good at taking action. There is no greater satisfaction, though, than overriding that anxiety that we all have. Again, I know some of us have it way, way worse than others, and you may need additional help besides what I'm talking about. It may not be this simple for you. But for those of us who only have anxiety as a survival mechanism, which is the majority of the population, you can use that as an advantage. Fear is a motivator. And I'm going to end with this. There are only two things in life that really matter. To that subconscious, and to our anxiety, and to those DNA memories, if that's actually a thing. Pain and pleasure. Every single thing we do in life is about those two things. It's about the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure. You see, at the end of the day, we're all selfish human beings. Some of us have just found a higher form of it than others. When I do things for other people, I do it because it makes me feel good. We're all the same. You know, when I see those people that are having their worst day of their life in court, they're there because they were selfish in a bad way. When I see somebody who, I follow this guy on Twitter who gives money away every day. Is he doing it because he's a genuinely good person, or is he doing it because it makes him feel good? He's still selfish. It's still about the me. It's not about the we. It's about the me, and it's always about the me. But some of us have figured out that we can be selfish and be good for society at the same time, and that's a higher form of selfishness. But it's still about pain and pleasure. It's about the avoidance of pain and the pursuit of pleasure. What the problem with anxiety and this theory is that the avoidance of pain is a much greater motivator. It's actually can be a good thing if you're trying to survive in the wilderness. But in modern human life, it's kind of a downer. It's kind of like procrastination. Why do we procrastinate? Because that thing that's hanging over our heads that we need to do is painful to do. Why do we eventually do it and stop procrastinating? Because as that date draws nearer that it has to be done, it becomes more painful to wait. Pain and pleasure. That's the only two things that matter. Guys, it's 26 minutes into this thing. I love y'all, and I hope that some of this made some sense, and I'm just rambling. There's no script. There's no nothing. And, I actually threw a lot of stuff at y'all today, and I hope you like it. I don't know how this is going to be received. Talking about anxiety, right now I'm having anxiety about, do I really want to put this out there? I'm a little scared of what people are going to think. But it goes back to that same exercise. I'm scared of what y'all are going to think. At the same time, does it really matter? Does it really matter? What if everybody hates it? What if everybody says Stafford Sheridan's a stupid asshole? Is it going to change my life really one iota? Probably not. Probably not. And that's the thing that we all deal with. And this idea that there are people out there, if you have no anxiety, you don't care about anything. We have anxiety because we care. I love you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. And, hey, thanks for listening to the Stafford Sheridan podcast. It's been real.
What we do here is go back.